and talk about politicians who are out of touch and maybe not being the most honest. Let's talk about Canadian politics. So I told you guys to watch a video of the foreign minister. So if you guys don't know what the foreign minister of Canada is kind of like the equivalent of a secretary of state of the U.S. But for Canada, it's like the main person who's in charge of handling like diplomatic relationships and stuff like that, and negotiating deals with other countries. So the current Canadian foreign minister, her name is Melanie Joly, and she was speaking at the Liberal caucus meeting that just happened earlier this week. So this is recent, right? So this is after all the news of like the NDP pulling out of the deal that they had to prop up the Liberals, and it's after like Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservatives, went on national TV to kind of bash both the Liberals and the NDP and call for an election. So after all of this, and I assume I didn't hear the question because it's not part of the clip, but I think the question has something to do with should we have an election? Should Canada have an election? Right. So I'll just play you the clip of her response to that question.
Canadians don't want elections. They just want us to do the job. They just want us to govern. And that's what we're doing. We're governing. We're taking tough decisions. Why? Because times are tough. And so, wait, let me finish. I'm speaking. So,
yeah, you guys just saw that clip, and I think Tristan and Dom, I told you guys to watch that clip beforehand. So that's her response. Her response was basically, Canadians don't want an election. They just want the Liberals to govern. And I think that the majority of Canadians, when they like saw, obviously this wasn't played on like national TV, so not every Canadians watched this video, but I assume that if for everyone who did watch that video who was Canadian for the most part, I would argue that the vast majority of people probably raised an eyebrow to that. It's like, really? We don't want an election. We want the Liberals to govern. So let me give you guys a chance to respond to that. So first of all, do you personally, as a Canadian, want to have an election right now? And if so, do you think that what Melanie Joly said was out of touch, or like what do you think of what she said in general? And if not, if you don't think that an early election is the right thing to do, explain why not. All right, so take it away.
I felt like she was just way over her head a little bit, just remembering it from watching it this morning. She was so confident. It's like, oh, it's not what you think it is. It's um, like our government's good. Like it's just like a matter of like inconveniences and like hiccups, but we're fine. Don't worry about it. Like nothing's wrong. Um, I think fact of the matter is that there's like several years of proof that this government isn't doing as well as it should be. And for the fact of the matter, I think, in fairness, I think an early election is the least that the government could do. And from there, fairly, the citizens of Canada can decide who to vote for. And that result in itself should be the end goal to see like what Canadians truly want. So I think in hindsight, an early election is not a bad idea at all. And she might just be a little too biased for one's liking. And I think I remember in the clip too, she was like, speaking kind of vibe, like Karen vibes. So I didn't really like that taste in my mouth, so to speak. But yeah, these are my opinions basically.
Yeah, so I watched the clip, and I feel like her argument was poorly communicated, in the sense of, I think what she was trying to say was that Canadians want the Liberals to do a good job, and I feel like maybe people want the Liberals to do a good job. I mean, I think most people want the Liberals to do a good job of running the country. I think most people would agree that they haven't been doing a particularly good job. So I think that her kind of argument statement whatever it was, that Canadians don't want elections. I don't think that I kind of think that she's missing the point. It's not that I don't think that Canadians actually want to go to an election booth and put their ballots in a box. If that's what she's trying to say, she's right. I don't particularly want to walk or drive or wherever to go put my name in a little what's it called after writing some shit on a piece of paper, you know? Like, I don't really want to do that. It's a bit of a waste of my time from that perspective of like, this takes time, it's effort. It's not something that I roll out of bed. I'm like, yes, today's voting day. But I don't want the Liberals to be in charge, right? At this point, I don't think most people want the Liberals in power anymore, because I don't think most people feel like the Liberals have been doing a very good job. And so I think that what she's getting at was that we don't want an election. Okay, no. But then she's really missing the mark with the idea that we just want the Liberals to govern. No, we want our country to be functioning and not be having everything go up in price and not have all these issues with like different housing and cost of living and everything. So on that front, we want to have our lives be, good. We want things to be, affordable. We want us to be able to buy the things we want. We want to, most people aren't rolling out of bed and thinking about the election from wow, I really want to change the color that is in the office right now. The red people have been in there too long. Let's put the blue people in now. I think people are very much looking at it like, my life is worse. I need to change it to be better. And what is one way we can change it to be better? By changing things that we cannot control, because I can't control the price of groceries myself. I can vote for a party that will make changes that will help me. And I think on that front, I think very few people at this point believe that the Liberals are the party that will change things for the better, particularly since they've been in power for so long and things have only gotten worse. So I'm not sure. I mean, I guess from the perspective of, why would I ever say my party's not going to do well? Like, I have an incentive for, if I'm a Liberal MP, to say that my party's going to do well, even if I know that it's the Hindenburg about to into flame. Either way, I think that that's probably more so why she's beating the drum on that front. But I just don't think that they have much of a chance in hell is really what it comes down to. I think that most likely the Conservatives will be forming the next election or the next government, and the Liberals will be lucky to still be a party.
I think you're being too kind to the Liberals, Tristan. So I do have some choice thoughts, and I promise, like I was saying in the chat before this show started earlier when I shared this video with you guys, that as our resident lefty, Tristan, I will give you an opportunity to defend the Liberals. And now you've had that opportunity, and now it's kind of my turn to say what I think, right? So I think this looks really bad for the Liberals, no matter which way you slice it. So let me just share a few polls, right? So just share some results from polls and let our audience members and let you guys to decide whether Canadians want an election or not, right? So this is from 338 Canada, the charts that you can see. So yeah, you can see that there's a huge divergence between the support ratings of the Liberals versus the Conservatives, right? Conservatives are in blue, Liberals are in red. And the NDP has taken a small dip at the end as well. So maybe pulling on the deal didn't help them too much, at least not yet. If anything, it might have even hurt them a little. And if you just look at kind of where they get, because this chart is like aggregate. So if you look at like the individual polls, there's not a single poll that has been conducted in the past 2 to 3 months that shows the conservative with anything less than a 14-point lead uh, in front of the liberals. So the liberals, no matter what, like no matter what polls you look at, no matter like how they're rated, whether they're A plus rated or C rated or whatever, the conservatives are ahead by a large margin, right? So I think that's it's just simply not true to say that the Canadians want the liberals to govern more. And I don't see how you can make that argument, even if she's just, I think she's just running out of things to say, right? Like, there's no way that she can defend the record of her government. And she's just saying that, oh, like I talked to, because this clip that I showed you guys, it sort of, it didn't show the first part of her sentence, so I apologize for that. I couldn't find like a full clip until afterwards, and I was too lazy to like reclip it. But there wasn't that much missing, right? So there's no like super big context that I'm missing. The only sentence that she said before that was, you know, I talked to a few like people I talked to a few Canadians over the summer, and they told me that Canadians don't, and my conclusion is that Canadians don't want an election, right? So the only thing that like kind of puts it into more context was, okay, maybe she talked to some people that just so happens to be liberal supporters that told her that they want the liberals to continue to govern and they don't want an early election. So this is like what I like to call proof by example, right? So it's anecdotal, and she's just taking something that happens like in her life and kind of projecting it in general. Where, you know, if like I know people do that all the time, right? I probably am guilty of that sometimes as well, but again, like if you're going to talk anecdotal evidence, I have plenty of anecdotal evidence that suggests the exact opposite, right? Like everyone who I talk to has pretty much, even like left-leaning folks have said that things, especially economically in Canada, but a whole lot of other issues too, like with crime and stuff like that, has not gone the way that they wanted it to. And yeah, it's just like you're getting more and more of the sense that the liberals are a sinking ship. And Dom, to what you said earlier about like her like cutting cutting off the follow-up reporter of her sounding like a Karen, I think that was like a trick that she very clearly pulled from Kamala Harris's playbook, because that was like one famous incident in the vice presidential debates when she was running for vice president against Mike Pence, that there was a debate and Pence was trying to like cut her off and interrupt her. And then she's like, hey, I'm speaking. And then this was like, you know, powerful female moment. And apparently like this is how it was received. Right. And I think that Joly is trying to like emulate that. But I don't think it worked that well in her case, because it just sounds extremely patronizing. And it just sounds like it just makes her sound even more out of touch. Right. And I think that any Canadian, even if you're let's say if you're on the fence, right? Like, I don't know who is still on the fence between like the liberals and the conservatives at this point, but let's say you're like a liberal conservative swing voter and you're on the fence still, and you saw this clip. I think that it would do a lot to push you towards the conservatives, right? Because it just makes you mad. It's like, hey, like things are not going well, and you're saying Canadians don't want an election. It's just it's gaslighting people, in my opinion. And it's like, oh, Canadians want the liberals to govern. It's like, really? Do we? I don't think so, right? So, and this is, I think, why like the conservatives are going to continue to succeed. And Pierre Poilievre has been like calling for an election soon. So I think the Parliament, Canadian Parliament, is back in session next week. So he'll probably put in a no confidence vote. And then we'll see how it goes, right? I don't think it's really going to go anywhere, because I don't think the NDP is actually going to flip. And even if they do, like there's a chance that like the Liberals and the Bloc could still work together, Bloc Québécois, and survive if the Bloc puts their support behind the Liberals. So unfortunately, I don't actually think we're going to get an early election, but you never know. But yeah, I think whenever the election does come, it's going to be bad for the Liberals. And this clip from Joly just illustrates exactly why. Right? They're completely out of touch. It's not just Trudeau, but it's his whole cabinet, and they're just not listening to what Canadians have to say. And I think that they're going to be punished at the voting booth for that.